Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome into Message Time to Maine. And right before I started this, something came over me. Give me a second. Yes. So right before I started this, something came over me, and I think it's because something that happened yesterday. So I just want to say, don't use the Bible to be impressing people. I, it came over me and it said that I basically my channel is basically the Lord's channel. It's not my channel. All right. So I post up and I show people that I do it, but I don't use it to impress people. And I never did. And when I started the whole channel was like, am I gonna do well doing this or not? And since I started the channel, I even placed the Lord before me. And I basically, ever since that day, this channel's been doing extremely well, whether it be shorts or my live streams. It's the live streams aren't doing so well, but the shorts are doing great. And it's because people actually want to hear this. I did not think people wanted this at first. I did this by just testing it out. I didn't even think I was gonna get what I got, but I praise the Lord every single day, just knowing I made it this far. Because God, Jesus Christ, I would have never made it this far without the Holy Spirit behind me. And people are just, and I'm still think people are shocked to believe that. But the reason I bring this up is because there's a YouTuber I follow, and she gets easily persuaded sometimes because she can't, like yesterday she went into a show and I reached out to her. I was like, I don't think the show's a good idea because I don't think he's actually reading his Bible like you think he is, and stuff like that. So I hope that resonated with her, and I hope she understands that she might. I probably will never watch his show because his show's full of like political stuff and all that. But I hope it resonated with her, and I hope she realizes that like she might not be on there very long. She's probably gonna go back to what she was doing originally before she makes the decision to actually fully stay. I don't think she's gonna be on there very long because unfortunately that's not her cup of tea. Her cup of tea is, one would be a channel that would be based on something like this. Not saying my channel particularly because I'm gonna say this. I reached out and asked Melanie Mack to come here, and yeah, it didn't work out in my favor. It didn't work out, but people told me, people in my comment section were like, reach out, reach out. So I was like, okay, I'll see what I can do. Um, but it wasn't a guarantee. And the reason I know it wasn't a guarantee because sometimes she don't naturally understand when God's speaking to her, and sometimes I get confused about that too. But I try my best to sit there and just let everything play out because eventually it's gonna get to her that I do this, and she's gonna be shocked, and if not, she's probably shocked already, and she's probably amazed and awe, and that's all I want her to know. That's all I want her to know. I don't need her to come on here. I would like for her to come on here and yeah, and answer questions, yes. But I don't need her to come on here. I don't need her to keep streaming every day or posting Bible stuff every day for me to read the Bible because this is my own channel. I didn't base this around her. I based this around God. This is God's channel. This is pretty much God's temple, and that's what I may change the name to. God's temple with no such domain, no such time. That might be the new name for the channel. That just came out of nowhere, by the way. But I do believe that this is God's channel. No, I don't believe. I know this is God's channel. I don't know why I said I do believe. I wanted to say something else. But yes, I believe that she ended up following somebody recently, or like getting on somebody's stream recently because she thought they were reading the Bible. And the dude hasn't even read a page of the Bible. He hasn't even reposted the Bible up at all. and I honestly think he did it just to impress her. Like I openly admit she persuaded me to do this. Yes, she was the reason I started. She was one of the reasons that got me involved in wanting to read the Bible. Do I think that do look? I would invite this person on. Look, there's a person. Okay, so there's a few people I would love to invite on this channel. Hold on, let me go back and I'm gonna show you guys who I would invite on the channel outside of her. Man, putting up too many of these. All right, so let me go to my Facebook. There are two people that I would actually invite. Now, I have my Facebook up. I'm just gonna show you real quick who I would invite onto the channel because they're really well versed in the Bible. But this lady right here would be somebody I would definitely have on this channel because she knows she's very well versed and she has some wild shorts that she puts up onto the channel. So there's her, Alexa Johnson. She knows what she's talking about. She's well versed in the Bible. And then the other person I would invite on this channel is there's another guy that I watch from time to time on here. He's another one, and he breaks the verses down and what they say. And so those are people that I would definitely have. Melanie Mack being one of them, but I haven't really reached out to anybody to ask them to come here. I'm just gonna, at some point I am gonna start reaching out to people once this channel gets bigger. But I already reached out to her and it didn't work in my favor, and mostly because she's more of a person who leans towards who's mainstream. She doesn't lean towards people like me who are not mainstream. She wants to be in the face of the public. I don't care about being in the face of the public. But I also said, if I was to ever get big enough, I would actually, I said to one of the people that follow me and one of the people that like my stuff a lot, I call them like my number one follower. I told them, I was like, if I ever have a meet and greet, I'll let you know, and I want you to come there and meet you, because they're like one of my biggest fans right now. I have a fan who I don't bring up too much, but I will say a prayer for at the end, because they're just really they've been with me the whole entire way. They've been with they followed the channel since I started it, and they watched it grow. And that's how I know they're one of my biggest fans, because they stood behind me. I haven't met them yet, but I would like to meet them, just because they're a fan of the channel like that. They're a fan of God. So, all right. Anyway, that's something I needed to say. We need to watch, when it comes down to this stuff, we need to watch who's true and who is not. And unfortunately, Melanie Mack fell into a spot where she's doing mainstream stuff, but she keeps falling into people who are untrue to everything. Like, I would have preferred Melanie Mack to go and stream with those people that I just pointed out, because they know more about the Bible than I do. They know more about the Bible than Nicole Ring does. And Nicole Ring was the one that invited her on the show. And the reason he got to her is because he took a picture of his Bible, and Melanie Mack started like saying, all right, that's the guy I'm going to stream with. And he hasn't done a single Bible thing with her since. Probably the other day, but that was probably the last thing we're going to see. The dude supports the LGBTQ, and I was pointing that out last night on stream. That's another reason why I was like, Melanie isn't going to like this. Melanie isn't going to want to be on there very long. She's going to go back to side scrollers. But I think Melanie Mack, in my opinion, she could build her own channel with people of her own. I mean, not her own channel, but her own stream of people with her own. And I know that. She just doesn't give herself enough credit is what it is. And it does really, she needs to start being aware that she doesn't give herself enough credit for what she does. All right. So today, we're finishing out Esther, starting on chapter 6 and ending on chapter 10. Mordecai honored. Chapter 6. That night, the king could not sleep, so he ordered the book of the Chronicles the record of his reign, he to be brought in and read to him. Recorded there that Mordecai had exposed Bigthana and Theresa, two of the king's officers, or Thresh, two of the king's officers who guarded the doorway, who had conspired to assassinate King Xerxes. What honor and recognition has Mordecai received for this? The king asked. Nothing has been done for me. His attendants answered. The king said, Who is in the court? Now, Haman had just entered the outer court of the palace to speak to the king about impaling Mordecai on a pole he had set up for him. His attendants answered, Haman is standing in the court. Bring him in. The court ordered, bring him in. The king ordered, when Haman entered, the king asked him, what should be done for the men the king delights in to honor? Now Haman thought to himself, who is there that the king would rather honor than me? So he answered the king, for the men king delights to honor, have them bring a royal robe the king has worn, and a horse the king has ridden, with a royal crest placed on its head. Then let the robe and horse be entrusted to one of the king's most noble princes. Let them robe the men the king delights to honor, and lead him on a horse through the city streets, proclaiming before him, this is what is done for the man the king delights to honor. Go at once, the king commanded Haman. Get the robe and the horse, and do just as you have suggested for Mordecai the Jew. Sit on at the king's seat. Do not neglect anything you have recommended. So Haman got the robe and the horse. He robbed Mordecai and led him on horseback through the city streets, proclaiming before him, this is what is done for the man the king delights to honor. Oh, he robed him. Sorry, he didn't rob him. He robed him. Afterwards, Mordecai returned to the king's gate, but Haman rushed home with his head covered in grief, and told Zeresh, his wife, and all his friends everything that had happened. His adversary and his wife, Zeresh, said to him, since Mordecai, before whom your downfall has started, is of Jewish origin, you cannot stand against him. You will surely come to ruin. While they were still talking with him, the king's eunuch arrived and hurried Haman away to the banquet Esther had prepared. Haman impaled. Chapter 7. So as you can see, they were they really didn't care for Mordecai. Mordecai kept going through all this stuff, and throughout all this, Mordecai is like so scared and frightened because like there's so many people going against him, and the problem is all these people going against him. The reason they're going against him is because he was Jewish. All right, and the reason. And the thing is, like, he is father to Esther, and that's why he was sticking around the kingdom so much. And I guess he was getting in trouble for that. Haman impaled. Chapter 7. So the king and Haman went to Queen Esther's banquet, and as they were drinking wine on the second day, the king again asked Queen Esther, What is your petition? It will be given you. What is your request? Even up half to half of the kingdom, it will be granted. Then Queen Esther answered, I have found favor with you, your majesty, and if it pleases you, grant me my life. This is my petition, and spare my people. This is my request. For I and my people have been sold to be destroyed, killed, and annihilated. If we had merely been sold as males and females slaves, I would have kept quiet because of such distrust would justify disturbing the king Xerxes, and asked Queen Esther who he is. Where is he, the man who where is he? The man who has dared to do such a thing. Esther said, an adversary, an enemy, this vile Haman. Then Haman was terrified before the king. The king got up in rage, left his wine, and went out into the palace garden. But Haman, realizing that the king had already decided his fate, stayed behind to beg Queen Esther for his life. Just as the king returned from the palace garden to the banquet hall, Haman, falling on a couch where Esther's reclining, falling on a couch where Esther was reclining. The king exclaimed, will he even molest the queen while she is with me in the house? As soon as word left the king's mouth, they covered Haman's face. Then Hebron, one of the eunuchs attending the king, said, a pole reaching to the height of 50 cubits, stand by Haman's house. He had it set up for Mordecai, who spoke up to help the king. The king said, impale him on it. So they impaled Haman on a pole he had set up for Mordecai. Then the king's fury subsided. Alright, so we're on chapter 8. The king's edict in behalf of the Jews. Chapter 8. The same day King Xerxes gave Queen Esther the estate of Haman, the enemy of the Jews, and Mordecai came into the presence of the king, for Esther had told how he was related to her. The king took off his signet ring, which he had reclaimed from Haman, and presented to Mordecai, and Esther appointed him over Haman's estate. Esther again pleaded with the king, falling at his feet, weeping, begging him to put an end to the evil plan of Haman the Agagite, which he had devised against the Jews. Then the king extended the gold scepter to Esther. She arose and stood before him. If it pleases the king, she said, and if he regards me with favor and thinks it is the right thing to do, and if he is pleased with me, let an order be written of a ruling dispatch, that Haman, son of Hammedatha, and the Agagite, devised and wrote to destroy the Jews in all the king's province. For how can I bear to see disaster fall on my people? How can I bear to see destruction on my family? King Xerxes replied to Queen Esther, to Mordecai the Jew, because Haman attacked the Jews. I have given estate to Esther, and they have impaled him on the pole he set up. Now, write another decree in the king's name in behalf of the Jews, as seems best to you, and seal it with the king's signet ring, for the document written in the king's name, and seal it with his ring, can be revoked. At once the royal secretaries were summoned on the 23rd day of the third month, the month of Sivan, wrote out all Mordecai's orders to the Jews, and the satraps, governors, and nobles. What is that? A satrap. Of the 127 provinces stretching from India to Kush. These orders were written in the script of each province and the language of each people, and also to the Jews in their own script and language. Mordecai wrote in the name of King Xerxes, sealed the dispatches with the king's signet ring, and sent them by mounted couriers who rode fast horses, especially bred for the king. The king edict granted the Jews in every city the right assemble to protect themselves, to destroy, kill, and annihilate the armed men of any nationality of province who might attack them and their women and the children, and to plunder the property of their enemies. The day appointed to the Jews to do this in all the province of King Xerxes was the 13th day of the 12th month, the month of Adar. A copy of text of edict was to be issued as law in every province and made known to the people of every nation, every nationality, so that the Jews would be ready on that day to avenge themselves, their enemies. The couriers riding the royal horses went and spurred on by the king's command, and edict was issued in the citadel of Susa. The triumph of the Jews. When Mordecai left the king's presence, he was wearing royal garments of blue and white, a large crown of gold, and purple robe of fine linen. And the city of Susa held a joyous celebration for Jews. It was a time of happiness and joy, gladness and honor in every province and in every city to which the edict of the king came. There was joy and gladness among the Jews, with feasting and celebrating, and many men of other nations, Alatais, became Jews, because fear of the Jews had seized them. Alright, so we're on chapter 9. So as you can see, there's a war about to break out between some people, because certain people didn't like the Jews, and then there were certain, there are certain nations that just did not get along, and that's why when you look at it as a whole, that's what this whole story is about, is like how the Jews were not liked by certain people back then, and that's why you see them attack. That's why you see certain people attack Mordecai, because Mordecai is Jewish. So, and the whole time, if you look at it, um, it just seems like, what you're noticing is that, like, the Jews were not actually hated by the King Xerxes here. He may have not liked them at first, but he ends up like he ends up he ends up being okay with them later on. But you'll notice how, like, a lot of people in here didn't like them. That's why they were so harsh and hypocritical to Mordecai. So, chapter 9. On the 13th day of the 12th month, the month of Adar, the edict commanded by the king was to be carried out on this day. The enemies of the Jews had hoped to overpower them, but now the tables were turned, and the Jews got up and handed over those who hated them. The Jews assembled in their city in all the provinces of King Xerxes to attack those determined to destroy them. No one could stand against them, because the people of all their nationalities were afraid of them, and all the nobles of the provinces set traps. The governors and the king administrators helped the Jews because fear of Mordecai had seized them. Mordecai was prominent in the palace. His reputation spread throughout the province, and he became more and more powerful. The Jews struck down all their enemies with the sword, killing and destroying them, and they did what they pleased to do to those who hated them. In the citadel, Susa, the Jews killed and destroyed 500 men. They also killed Parashan, Datha, Dolpha, Ashaphath, Pathara, Poratha, Alada, Adaratha, Parmasha, Arasa, Aradad, and Vayazath, the 10 sons of Haman, son of Hammedath, the enemy of the Jews. But they did not lay their hand on the plunder. The number of those killed in the citadel of Susa was reported to the king. That same day, the king said to Queen Esther, "The Jews have killed and destroyed 500 men, and 10 sons of Haman in the citadel of Susa. What have they done in the rest of the king's province? Now, what is your petition? It will be given you. What is your request? It was also to be granted. If it pleases the king," Esther answered, "give the Jews in Susa permission to carry out the day's edict tomorrow also, and let Haman's 10 sons be impaled on poles." So the king commanded that this be done. An edict was issued in Susa, and they impaled 10 sons of Haman. The Jews in Susa came together on the 14th day of the month of Adar, and they put to death 300 men, but they did not lay their hand on plunder. Meanwhile, the remainder of the Jews who were in the king's province also assembled to protect themselves and get relief from their enemies. They killed 75,000 of them, but they did not lay their hand on the plunder. This happened on the 13th day of the month of Adar, and on the 14th day they rested and made it a day of feasting and joy. The Jews in Susa, however, had assembled on the 13th day, on the 13th and 14th, and then on the 15th they rested and made it a day of feasting and joy. This is the why royal Jews, those living in the villages, observed the 14th of the month of Adar as a day of joy and feasting, and for giving province to each other. Purim established. Mordecai recorded these events, and he sent letters to all the Jews throughout the province of King Xerxes, near and far, to them, celebrated annually the 14th and the 15th day of the month of Adar, as a time when the Jews got relief from their enemies, and as the month when their sorrow was turned into joy, and their mourning into a day of celebration. He wrote to them to observe the days as the days of feasting and joy, and giving presents of food to one another and gifts to the poor. So the Jews agreed to continue the celebration they had begun doing what Mordecai had written them for Haman, son of Hammedatha, and the Agagite, the enemy of all the Jews, had plotted against the Jews to destroy them, and had cast the pure. This is the lot of their ruin and destruction. But when the plot came to the king's attention, he issued written orders in the evil scheme Haman had devised against the Jews should come back onto his head, and that he and his son should be impaled on poles. Therefore, these days were called Purim, from the word pure, because of everything written in this letter, and because of what they had seen, what had happened to them. The Jews took it on themselves to establish the custom, and they were descendants, and all joining them would shout without fail, "Observe these 2 days every year in the way prescribed at the time appointed." These days should be remembered and observed in every generation by every family, in every province, and in every city. And these days of Purim should never fail to be celebrated by Jews, nor should the memory of these days die out among their descendants. So Queen Esther, daughter of Abihail, also with Mordecai the Jew, wrote with full authority to confirm this second letter concerning Purim, and Mordecai sent letters to all the Jews in 127 provinces to Xerxes' kingdom, words of goodwill and assurance to establish these days of Purim at their designated times, as Mordecai the Jew and Queen Esther had decreed for them, and as they had established for themselves and their descendants in regard to their times of fasting and lamentation. Esther's decree confirmed these regulations about Purim, and it was written down in the second record in the records. The greatness of Mordecai, chapter 10. So this is the last and final chapter. This one's very short. King Xerxes imposed tribute throughout the empire to its distant shores, and all his acts of power and might together, with the full account of greatness of Mordecai, whom the king had promoted, are they not written in the book of annals of the kings of Media and Persia? Mordecai the Jew was second in rank to King Xerxes, praeeminent among the Jews, and held high in esteem by his many fellows Jews, because he worked for the good of his people and spoke up for the welfare of all the Jews. So we are now on a new book. We're on Job now, which I don't know how we might read through this one pretty fast because it's a lot of like more open text than it is with what we just read, and we'll so I give us getting through Job about probably about a week, and then Psalms will be on. That should take more than a week. That's gonna take about a week and a couple of days. I'm presuming. Um, and then Proverbs, which yeah. So I'll be at this. I'll be at the next two chapters. Let's see. We made it through two chapters in one day. So I'm gonna give Job about like maybe 3 to 4 days. We're gonna read through that by an hourly stream. So that's my goal for it. We'll be through Job in no time, and then we'll be in Psalms, and then from Psalms, we are actually really close. We'll be in Proverbs and Elasticus, and then Isaiah, which is where I'm actually at. Well, no, Elasticus, and then Song of Songs, which is very short. Song of Songs is something that I'm like, it's one of those things where I'm a guy who's not a fan of really really romantic poetry, but it's a very very romantic poetry kind of thing, and it expresses the way God loves us and we love God, and how love in general is in general. So but yes, so we're getting pretty far along. I just finished that, so that's pretty cool. Wow, we actually have more time than I thought. Oh boy. I don't want to start a new chapter. I don't want to start a new book just yet, but yes. And that's why like that whole story is about how like if you just paid attention to that whole story, that story was about how like the people kept heckling Mordecai because he was Jewish, because back when we first started that, it sounded like that people were not a fan of the Jews, and then it got more and more, and it just progressed more and more. That people actually ended up trying to attack Mordecai because he was Jewish and he helped the kingdom out a lot. So that just goes to show you, going back in real life, if you think somebody's bad, maybe try looking at all the work that they're doing, and see how great they actually are, because you might be looking at somebody bad right now, but if you look at their work they're doing, their work shows if they're an actual, like, normally their work shows if they're a good person or not, if they have respect, and also like take a look at their actions. Do their actions actually speak I'm a good person, or do their actions actually say I'm a bad person? And take a look at the surrounding people. Take a look at if people are being take a look at if the person is being heckled or not. Take a look at all that stuff before you make a judgment call, because you might be making a judgment call on somebody that might actually be better than you realize. Like, and that's part of our problem, is we believe what people say instantly, but we don't realize, and we don't look at the way people are actually doing things. We don't look at them in general. We look at what a whole group of people are saying about one person. But reality, the truth is, when you look at that one person, are you seeing the same things that the people are saying? Or are you just, you gotta decide for yourself. That's why, like, you won't see me make a decision on a person. Like, and there were examples of that a little while ago here through YouTube. Um, and people got on my case about it, but I was like, I'm not gonna side with you guys because you guys make up so much stuff. But there was an incident where, like, YouTuber Sniper Wolf, which I barely even know, but I tried communicating with her. But if I was to take a side in that whole thing, because I don't think it was even thought about. I think I was like, but I don't know. People don't show too much that I'm noticed online. I'm still a small guy. I don't perceive myself as like someone huge. But with that whole event of her getting blamed, I look at it like this. I looked at her in general, and I was like, well, the whole internet's going against her, and this probably could just be some made up drama that, you know, I witnessed it a lot. People, the drama being made up about people for you to get to not like people. There's a thing going on the internet where, if you haven't noticed, the internet is a pool of people, people always having an argument, and what the argument is what side will you take? That's the whole goal of everybody. And my thing is like, I look at it this way: if they didn't do something extremely horrible, I'll be willing to take their side, because God forgives. Jesus Christ forgives. I forgive. But if you keep up the same routine, and you keep coming back, and you keep upsetting people, and you keep doing the same stuff over and over, I won't forgive you, because at that point, I see how merciless you are. I see how, is it merciful or merciless? I see how, like, I see how vicious you can be. That's why there's certain YouTubers I just will not forgive now, because I've seen them do it number and number of times. That I'm like, what are you doing on this platform? By the way, what are you doing on YouTube that's giving you so much credit? Why do people like that kind of stuff? Why do people like this, like, whole group of people going around blaming people and stuff for making a mistake? Mistakes are meant to be made. Part of being a human being is making mistakes. That's what the Bible has taught us. That's what we have to understand. But we don't. We don't. And the worst part is that person that's doing so well, if he makes a mistake, he's still looked at as like a hero by people, even though his judgment and his reasoning is to go around and be manipulative and blame people and stuff. That's why I don't like certain YouTubers, because I know what they're capable of. I've seen them do it plenty of times, where somebody could be minding their own business and not doing anything, and probably have changed. But because they in the back of their head, they're holding on to something that happened a little while ago, they're going and being like, well, this guy hasn't changed, blah blah blah. And it's like, okay, dude, you sit online all day. Get a hobby outside of the internet and find something else to do with your life, please. Because what you're doing is you're making yourself, to me, you're making yourself look like you're just looking for drama at this point. And that's what some of these YouTubers do. Some of these drama YouTubers, they love looking for drama. They love watching people lash out. They love, let me record that few minutes of that person lashing out on somebody so I can make them look like a bad person. In reality, the truth is, I don't care how anybody thinks. I don't care what anybody thinks of me. I sit here and I read the Bible on a daily basis. I know I'm going to make mistakes. I know things are going to happen. And that's part of being human, and that's how God made us. And that's, Jesus Christ died on the cross for us. He died for our sins, okay? That doesn't mean I'm out here making mistakes every day, though. And what little mistakes I do, it's because the mistakes I'm making and slip up here on this platform, or not YouTube, but like, if I was like to slip up, I'd be slipping up on Kick and Twitch. And you know what? There's got to be a way to tell people that you don't respect homosexuality. There's got to be a way of telling people that without having to lash out on them. But the thing is, they don't want to listen to that. So what you got to do is then you got to just try to ignore them. And people genuinely act like pretending to be, looking at my chat. There were a few people that came in here last night, and I don't understand why it is I don't understand why they think that they're gonna change me or something like that. The worst part is they sit there and they dwell on people who are actually trying to be good people, good Christian people. They dwell on them. They think they're being funny. But when you turn around and you look at it, they're mocking our God. But they don't want to accept that they're mocking our God. They don't want to accept that they're mocking Jesus Christ on the cross. They just don't care. And the thing is, the reason they don't care is because homosexuality is already a sin. if you're continuing to commit that same, thing, you are going to acquire a demon, and you're gonna just act a certain way, where you act like you don't care about stuff. And that's the worst part about it is like, they don't really grasp that concept because they're not, something about that leads them to thinking what they're doing is funny, and it's not. It's preposterous. It's an abomination to our Bible. It's an abomination to even coming into my channel. And what it took for me to get off, what it took for me to get it off, to get them off of the channel is looking at something and pointing out something, and it stopped. It stopped after I pointed it out that this YouTuber that was invited on Melanie Mac's show was accepting of the LGBTQ. They all stopped and he went away. And I think that really, really, really hurt them in some way. I don't know why it would have hurt them. I don't know why it would have bothered them. But the reality, the truth is, I'm not accepting of that. I'm not accepting of that. And that's why, when I'm reaching out to people and telling them, hey, pay attention to what you're doing, it's not to be mean. It's to get them aware that you might be treading lightly in territory you don't want. You don't want to be treading in. And I don't understand why people try to bring that here. Especially on my streams that are supposed to be Christian friendly. It's the worst when you're Christian and you have all these homosexuals show up into your chat and think it to be normal. Think that they're going to come here and say some weird off the wall stuff. And that's enough to make anybody. That's enough to make anybody just disagree. Disagree with them, disagree in the way they're handling things, disagree with everything that they are. Disagree with the fiber, every fiber of their being. Because God didn't make you that way. The Lord didn't make you that way. And it's crazy how many people are out there just like flaunting the fact that they're LGBTQ and stuff like that. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. It's immoral. I didn't realize this. On the side of it is a cross. Silver cross. I didn't realize that. Alright. But yeah. I look at it this way. That stuff needs to stay with you. You don't need to bring that over here. You bringing that over here, you're doing something you don't need to be doing. So, it's the fact of the matter is I don't know why people think that all that's okay. In fact, it's bothersome that people think that that's okay. You know how many times people made me feel like an idiot because they placed words in my mouth that I never even said? Because I don't accept that. They did it to be funny, and it's humiliating actually. It's humiliating. And I get degraded by it because I'm not a part of it. But yet they will convince themselves in some way in the next couple of days that they're part of that. They just accept that I just accept them, and I don't accept them. I don't accept what they're doing. I even say it every single time. I would kick them out of my church. If I made a church, if I literally made a church, I would kick them out of the church because that is an abomination to even remotely have them in churches. hold on. Let me look at something real quick. So, this is the problem. Okay, you do the research and look here. Oops, wrong thing. This is the problem. Okay, I don't know why we do this. I don't understand why I need it. None of America's 100 largest churches are LGBTQ. All right, list and denominations affirming the LGBTQ. This is wrong. This is where we're messing up. We don't need to be doing this. How many churches do not support LGBT? You can't even get a answer for it because it's I don't understand this. Why is it that we're choosing to accept this? Why is it that this upsets me, man? This upsets me. I'm gonna be the first church that's gonna. Dude, I would actually. Why? Why do we accept that, man? I'm disappointed in the way the country is ran. Mostly because we've allowed a bunch of men who want to have sexual intercourse with men run the whole entire country. And I say things the lightest way possible, not to get banned here, but there are things that come out of my mouth that that do need to be said. That do need to be said. And it's the reason I'm so against this right now is because I'm not a, I'm partly suffering because of their actions. Because I haven't had a real relationship or a bond with a person in like a while. And you know, it's it's wild because you can't have any like male friends anymore without it coming off as like that. And then when you do have male friends, what happens? They automatically assume that, hey, he's like one of us. Now we're gonna accept him in. And it's like I don't know why they keep coming. I don't know why they keep coming back to think that I'm okay with them. Especially when I drop the F bomb here sometimes, not on YouTube, but on my other channels. And I'm gonna keep doing that. I'm gonna keep reminding them that they are not liked by me, no matter how much they try to come into this channel. This is unacceptable, and it's always been unacceptable. I am not willing to accept this on my channel. I'm not willing to accept them anywhere near me. I'm not willing to accept them. I have to go to work and be okay with them, but when I'm at work, I don't accept them. I just don't. Why do I have to accept them? Why is it that they can't accept why is it that they can't accept somebody that's straight? Why do they have such a problem with me? Why they have such a problem with me trying to form a relationship and a bond with a Christian woman? A lot of people do, for some reason. I don't know what it's going to take to get you guys to understand. I don't know what it would take to get them to understand. You know? But that's just me. Alright, I'm not accepting of that, and I never will be. And I never, I've already clarified that I've already said and clarified multiple times that I do not accept the LGBTQ here. I don't know why anybody is even fighting against that idea. It's insane to have to keep saying it over and over and over to get people to understand. I do not accept it. Why are people so stupid today? That's another thing that should be asked. Anyway, I'm going to say prayers, and then I'm going to get out of here. All right. Our Heavenly Father and Jesus Christ, I pray to you today that you make whatever happened in my chat and everything else related to that, I pray that you make it stop. I pray that you push these people away from us, and I pray that you get them to learn and understand that they are not accepted here nor anywhere near you or anywhere in the spirit of you, Lord. I pray that you go and you put a Bible in their life and let them know they are not accepted at all into any churches or anything. The churches that are corrupted by them, Lord, we need to go and bring those churches down. Lord, do something about those churches and do something about their acceptance of homosexuality, because I know you're not a fan of it. In Sodom and Gomorrah, you already explained that. So, Lord, also, I pray that you protect the people that need protected today. I pray that you put angels in people's life that need angels today. Lord, I pray that you help people fighting a battle against, demons and all that. I pray that you send angels to fight back for them and destroy them. Lord, I also pray that you get Melanie Mack to understand that that the stream she was on yesterday with the person, she's treading lightly in an area she don't want to be treaded in. So Lord, if you could reach out to her, and teach her a little something. Teach her she shouldn't be, just going on that show anymore. Lord, I pray that you really bring about the idea to her that, she needs to stay away from political YouTubers and stay with gaming, Lord, or Bible related stuff, or even Christian streamers. Lord, I pray that you put it in her to understand that maybe she needs to backtrack a little bit and do research on the profiles she's teaming up with. Lord, make sure you put it in her to understand that she needs to start researching profiles that she connects with on YouTube and this platform, and starts paying attention to what they're doing. Lord, I also pray to you that you you send angels to all my friends that are of Christian. And Lord, send angels to the people I know that are struggling to get to you, Lord. I pray that you put a Bible in their life, and I pray that you send angels to destroy their demons. In Jesus' name, amen. So we have 2 minutes. But yeah, today's story was all about how the Jews, Mordecai the Jew, became a good person in the end. He was like the most blessed Jewish person in the kingdom. So, story was very well. Just remember, again, if you're listening to a bunch of noise on one person, make that opinion about them yourself. See what's actually going on. Take a stand, step back, and see what is actually going on with that person. Is that person really the bad person, or are they struggling in an area in their life where they're extremely hurt? Or are they struggling in their life where, people are making them feel a certain way? Are they struggling with stuff? Because that's another thing you have to ask. Most people, when they're bothered and hurt by something, they usually have a certain way of doing things. And they usually end up like expressing themselves a different way. And that's something that a lot of us should be taking into consideration, considering the fact that, like, in today's world, we have all forms of social media to read and understand where a person's coming from on on their actions and how they feel. So if you're not looking at that, start doing that today. Start learning about the people that you are connecting with. Start learning about the people that you are seeing, or you're talking to. And that's my best advice for you guys is learn about the person. You might see something there that might not be exactly what the other people are claiming. Just a little bit of advice for me. All right. Anyway, I'm getting out of here. Have a blessed day. I'm gonna go upload a short, and I'll be seeing you guys later on today with another stream. And I'll be working on my comic book throughout the day, and then later on tonight I'll have another stream that's just me chatting about the day's events and maybe Facebook Reels. I don't know. But all right, take it easy, guys, and God bless you.